Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Business School. I was thinking today about this presidential election and all these candidates that we see who are coming through and kind of doing the same old chicken dance that they do for black people when they try to get the black vote. If you look throughout history, what you'll realize is that in the last 50, 60 years, black people have been absolutely fundamental and instrumental in keeping Democrats in power. Um, there is kind of this implicit understanding that because some Democrats have stood by black people in terms of civil rights movements and things like that, that we're kind of their political uh, say political operatives, political slaves, if you want to call it that. We are, or political pawns, that might be a better term to use. We kind of get sucked into these really long, drawn out, multi-century battles between conservatives and liberals, or men and white women. We get sucked into these things, and they're not our fights, but we're enlisted in these fights because we don't always have enough of a sense of identity to determine which fights really should belong to us. Now, I see a lot of black people who've moved past that, and I congratulate them for this. But then I see a lot of black folks who still, to some extent, define progress in the black community to mean acceptance from white people. Acceptance by white institutions, access to white people's money, access to white people's jobs, access to white people's awards and validation, things like that. Because we don't have a lot of that on our own. We don't really know. We don't train our kids to really develop systems and institutions, which kind of train our kids to, work hard and behave, so that at some point some institution they respect actually acknowledges them. And unfortunately, those institutions tend to be white. Now, I was thinking about this issue with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, and reparations. Now, if you want to know where I stand as far as this election goes, of course I could, I wouldn't vote for Donald Trump. I'm not a fan of his approach or his ideology. It does not benefit me. I don't think people who like Trump tend to like people like me. But at the same time, I think that we're misled if we truly believe that anybody on the Democratic side really has much interest in helping or building the African American community. There's really no reliable evidence to show that voting for Democrats has really done anything for black people. And I think that we have to take some time to kind of unwind some of the brainwashing we might have received over the years that told us that supporting the Democrats is the only thing that we can do. If you notice, the language that politicians tend to use when they get your support is they don't really tell you how great they are. They tell you how bad the other guy is, right? So they'll tell you how horrible Trump is, but they won't really tell you why you should vote for them. I mean, why should I convince you to vote for me if I can just tell you not to vote for him, and then make you feel like you have to make a choice, and therefore your choice is going to be me. It's just like a man telling a woman, look, it's me or him. Either the man who, he beat you. And all I do is punch you in the face one time. He beat you four times. So why would you want to be with a man who beat you four times when you could be with a man who only beat you once, right? So the question is, a person in that situation, are they really forced to make a choice? Well, I would say that you're not forced to do anything, and I think that's where I get into some back and forth sometimes with black folks who just believe that we absolutely have to do what they tell us to do. They tell you to make a choice. If you don't vote, you don't count, and you have to vote. And if you don't vote, then don't say nothing. Well, if I tell you, look, you know what? Hey, for lunch, we're having two choices of a meal. You can either eat rotten eggs or a pile of dog shit. Okay, so pick one. Pick one. You've got a choice. Don't tell me you ain't got a choice. Pick one, and if you don't pick one, if you don't eat rotten eggs or dog shit, then don't complain about the food. You have no right to complain if you did not vote. You have no right to complain if you did not pick, right? So you're eating the rotten eggs and you're vomiting everywhere, and you somehow someone has convinced you that you have to eat the rotten eggs in order to complain about the food that was served to you. Well, some would also say, you could just say no, screw you. I'm gonna go eat a steak. I'll be back when y'all have some real food. Then you let me know, and then I'll eat at this restaurant. Until then, I'm not interested. W.E.B. Du Bois actually wrote a great article explaining why he said he won't vote. Now, I'm not telling people not to vote. See, people, that's another thing. People think I'm telling black people what to do, not to vote. Dr. Boyce, is very dangerous for you to tell black people not to vote. I'm not telling nobody to do nothing. All I'm telling black people to do, if I'm telling black people to do anything, is I'm telling them to think for themselves. See, the encouragement of free thought in the black community is in itself a threat to the establishment. See, people who get upset because they think I'm telling black people what to do are people who are accustomed to telling black people what to do. They feel that black people must be told what to do. I don't think that anybody really tells the Jewish community or the Asian community exactly what they have to do, right? But there is, there are community expectations based on taking care of your own and taking care of your own, your own people. But I don't really see, for example, in the Asian community, their voter participation rates are very low, but yet they have the highest income levels and highest education levels in America. I don't see any Asian leaders. I don't even know anybody who's defined as an Asian leader telling them what to do. Hey, we're voting. Everybody, get out to vote. Get out to vote. Well, maybe they don't feel inspired. Maybe they feel like, hey, you know what? These candidates, they're just white people. They don't care about us. We're gonna work. We're gonna focus on. I'm gonna go educate my kids, or I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna go build my business while y'all up here fighting over which white person is gonna be in office. Which massa you gonna have in the next for the next 4 years. And that's kind of what it is. It becomes a plantation fight for black people. We literally get to a point where we will literally go to battle for our master. We've been fighting for massa for 500, 400 some years, right? So, that's kind of what I see. I mean, again, I'm just calling it like I see it. I'm not saying that that you should or should not do anything. I'm just saying that I'm calling it like I see it. Now, what I want to talk about real quick is this reparations conversation. This is kind of where I get off the bus with the Bernie Sanders types of the world. I've been deeply concerned when I see these Democratic candidates kind of getting these black surrogates to represent them, and then the surrogates get into plantation fights with each other, like Killer Mike versus Ta-Nehisi Coates. I'm Team Hillary, I'm Team Bernie, so I'm gonna kill you, nigga, cause you don't like Bernie or you don't like Hillary, and Bernie and Hillary are hooking us up, paying some bills, whatever, getting us access to something that we deem to be important, and it's very interesting because you can't imagine that really happening with say black candidates controlling the white vote and getting white surrogates to try to impact the white community, right? And you might have, now don't get me wrong, you had Obama, he had white people that worked for him, but there was no sort of idea of we're going to just get all the white vote. And so I think that um, I think that we just kind of have to look at this with some common sense and kind of realize that while Killer Mike and Ta-Nehisi might go out and represent Hillary and Bernie will almost never go out and represent Ta-Nehisi and Mike, right? And I think that's the interesting asymmetry there, that really speaks to the subtle nature of white supremacy. It really speaks to the condescending nature of whites, even white liberals, who, just like many black people, remember white supremacy, it only works if black people support it too. So some of the biggest white supremacists are black people. There are many black people who truly feel that while the situation is not ideal, while the situation is certainly not favorable for us, while the situation is certainly not fair for us, this is the best we're gonna get, so we might as well take the best we can get, right? And I'm not that guy. I'm not that Negro. I'm not a black person who's gonna say, I'll accept the best you give me. I'm going to be the guy who says I will accept what I deserve. And so let's jump into this reparations thing real quick. I want to talk to you about this for a second. Now, when Bernie and Hillary were asked about the reparations conversation, neither one of them really gave an answer that made much sense. Both of them kind of talk about the complexity and the difficulty of pulling forth a reparations program, the divisiveness. See, that's the thing. See, when white folks were doing horrible things to us, like raping and killing our ancestors, and like taking grandma out back and doing what they wanted with her, and killing your grandfather because he spoke up, and taking all their money, just forcing them to live a complete nightmare. There's no conversation about how divisive that was. There's no conversation about the fact that their behavior was incredibly divisive when it comes to black versus white. Black people were not comfortable with that behavior, but whites were unified in their disdain for black people to a point. Don't get me wrong. There were white people who didn't approve of slavery, and there were some white people who felt like we deserved to almost be treated like human beings. But for the most part, there really isn't a lot of white outrage in terms of getting black people what we really deserve, and which I've told you though is actually something that we're going to kind of have to fight for. If you're not willing to fight for it, then nobody's going to give it to you, and that's just a fundamental fact. But it's very interesting that when it's time to pay the piper, when it's time to really look back and readdress these issues and correct these issues and pay the painful price to make things right, suddenly it becomes divisive. And in a way, I almost think of that like somebody rapes your mother and steals all her wealth and then passes all that wealth on to her child, who then befriends you and lets you work for her because she's got a lot of money. She's got your mama's money that she stole from her, and then when you say, well, in order for us to really be friends, we have to talk about what happened to my mother, what your father did to my mother, and imagine if that person said, well, why are you being divisive? Why don't we just look to the future? We can look to the future and build a better future. Well, the problem is, any fool, any idiot with an IQ above 10 understands that you can't really move to a productive future if have not properly addressed the destructive past. Um, you can't do that. I think that obviously, from a political standpoint, it benefits whites to pretend like all that devastation did not occur. And the thing about it is, you actually have some black people who fall for that. And so here's what I'm going to look at. There's an article on fusion.net that kind of goes into Bernie Sanders, and it's interesting because Bernie Sanders was against the idea of reparations for African Americans, and there's an article here that's really good. The article's called Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton both supported reparations, just not for American slavery, and it shows where Bernie and Hillary actually supported reparations for the Jewish community, and when they asked Hillary about reparations. Let me tell you what she said, and this actually speaks to the point I just made a second ago. She said, "We do owe an apology to African Americans for hundreds of years of slavery." Well, thank you for the apology, but words really don't fix the problem. She said, "But I think that the people I know and the people I work with want us to stay focused on the future. Keep our economy going, keep providing good public education, quality, affordable health care, do the things that will enable people to have the best futures for themselves, and that's what I'm committed to doing." So, I mean, again, think about that analogy. I mean, imagine if a rapist, or a robber, somebody robs you and beats you and takes all your stuff, and then you come back to get your stuff and they say, well, no, I think it's best to just focus on the future. Well, of course, that's their incentive to focus on the future because they're not suffering from what occurred in the past. They're benefiting from what occurred in the past. So, if you want to know how I kind of perceive these candidates, I really don't see anything about any of these candidates that's going to make life in the black community any better. I think that things like wealth building initiatives, I think coming together as a community, really controlling our money and our education. I think those are two things that will make a difference for black people. When black parents are educating black children as much as white teachers are. I'm talking about when your child comes home, you're educating your child on your own. Also, you're learning how to make your own money. If black people learn to make our own money and educate our own kids, that's what's going to empower us. That's what's going to, and it doesn't matter if a black person never votes for the next 200 years. If we did those things, we would progress as a community. You would see progress. You would because whenever something happened, little Pookie on the corner got shot by the police. If you have black millionaires who are all vested in protecting their community, then they will go down and they will make certain things happen. They will have the money to go buy up the political system. This political system is operated by money. Black people don't have any money. I think that I believe that if somebody wants your vote, I think they should earn it. Anybody who tells you different is out of their mind. I don't really know if these candidates are earning the vote. I think these candidates are making promises that end up becoming empty promises. And so, again, I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. But I'm here to basically tell you to be comfortable with whatever your decision is. So if your decision is to not vote, you're not going to have me run up on you and say, "Oh, you should vote because your ancestors died for you to vote." You know what? Our ancestors also died for us to be able to sit at a lunch counter with white kids. That was not that was not something worth dying for. I mean, I understand why they made that decision, because they felt at that time, based on their own misperception that whiteness is godliness, that being next to white folks makes you better. They thought that that was would be a worthy sacrifice. It wasn't a worthy sacrifice. We do not benefit from going into white businesses and giving away our money. We've agreed on that. So just because somebody made a sacrifice for something doesn't mean that it's something that you have to necessarily agree with. So again, all respect, of course, is due to those who paved ways and things like that for us. But also, you're paving a way right now. You know, when you are starting that business that's going to turn into a multi-million dollar corporation for your grandchildren, when you're educating your child so that they can grow up without the white supremacy bubble clogging their brain, when you're out here fighting for your community and doing what's right, that's a sacrifice you're making as well. And I would say that sacrifice is just as worthy as a sacrifice that you make to keep Massa Hillary Clinton on in the White House, or Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump or whoever you vote for. So I just encourage people to engage in critical thinking. That's it. So, and if anybody gets mad at me for telling black people to do what's on their heart, hey, sorry. Then maybe this ain't the place for you. All right. By the way, I'm about to get out of here, guys. Saturday, March 26th, next week, we're going to be in Chicago at the Harold Washington Center. So come check it out. It's going to be awesome. You can buy tickets at drboyschicago.com. We're also going to Houston on March 31st, Thursday. You can buy tickets at drboyshouston.com. We're also going to Baltimore on April 28th. You can go to drboysbaltimore.com. That's our theme. We're going to just put the little city's name right after Dr. Boyce, and you can check it out and buy tickets. The Houston event is an experiment. It's actually just a fundraiser. We're just going to let people donate what they feel, but please don't be overly cheap. This money really does go to hire black folks and cover expenses. So I hope that you'll find it in your heart to support us as much as you support Walmart and Nike and the movie theater down the street. If you could do that for us, then we would certainly appreciate it. All right, people, I'm out of here. And by the way, if you want to learn how to start a business sooner, buy your first share of stock for free, go join the blackbusinessschool.com. We have over I think 19,000 students now, and as black folks that are participating in what I call the Black Economic Revolution. We are in the middle of a revolution right now. It's very quiet, but people are feeling it. People are hearing it. You're seeing movies like Black Friday and Resurrecting Black Wall Street being made that are really reawakening the beast of black economic intelligence. And I guarantee you, give it 10 years, you're gonna see a massive transformation. All these babies that we're educating are gonna start growing up. It's gonna be a game changer, y'all, and it won't come from voting for the right Democrat. That's just my 2 cents. All right. Don't forget, if you want to know about the whole tour, go to the Dr. Boyce Watkins Tour.com. The Dr. Boyce Watkins Tour.com. You can find out what city we're coming to, when we're coming to your city. I'd love to meet you in person, and when I see you, I will hug you until the air goes out of your body, because I love you that much. So talk to you guys soon. Take care. Peace.